we all play a part into this, right? We all have our part to play. And you have to play your part.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Implement Impact. I'm Trevor Pline with co-host JJ. And today's a big topic because today, with kind of everything that we're going through, is one of the biggest base works that we're going to need. And it's accountability. So what is accountability? Accountability is, by definition, an obligation or willingness to accept responsibility for your actions. And why does this matter? One little reason is there's a lot of things that people don't understand that they can leverage through this. And going right into that, I'm going to go into two different motivations that have been studied. I mean, this is from Indeed.com. Intrinsic motivation, which is basically when you feel, you're inspired to do something. You want to better yourself somehow. And extrinsic, you don't want to see you don't want something to happen, so you do something to prevent it. So for an example, if you get up early and you go to the gym every day, for a while back in college, I used to get up and my thought was, I was looking at it more extrinsically, I guess you could say, because I wanted to go see some chicks. Like, if you don't work out, you don't get chicks, right?
Right.
But I didn't really think about it like you better your life. And one thing is, I don't know if you have any personal experiences on that.
Yeah. Just this morning, your cousin, my girlfriend, asked me to sweep the floor before her friends came over. I did it because I wanted to help her out intrinsically, right? I also didn't want her to yell at me, so I did that extrinsically too. So I swept the floor because I was afraid of being yelled at, but also because I wanted to help her out.
There was no intrinsic there. You just didn't want to get yelled at. Okay.
Maybe.
But yeah, and you can flat out tell the people in the gyms who do one rep and then they stare at themselves for like a half hour while they're flexing.
Yes.
I couldn't really do that because I didn't really have much to look at. So it eventually turned into intrinsic. But the best part about it is you can actually leverage both.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And that's kind of the key to it. Some people say, you got to learn by pain or
right.
the lack of pain or pleasure, that whole battle.
Mm-hmm.
But why not use both? Like, that's what I've realized. A lot of these high performers,
Absolutely.
That's what they do.
I think that's a really interesting and a key point that I don't think a lot of people catch on to, but the high performers know, is that it's not one or the other. It is a binary there, right? Like you can something you might be motivated more by pleasure, something you might be more motivated by pain. Sometimes it might be both equally. You don't have to choose one or the other. Use both of them to your advantage. They both work.
Yeah. And that kind of takes us right into like your why. Because before you find out what motivates you and what doesn't motivate, to use these tools to leverage, you got to figure out what you are here for.
Yes.
I've personally written out a mission statement, which I've shared with you, and vice versa.
Right.
But really, it comes down to what do you want from life? Because right now, I pulled this stat from menshealth.com, but which applies to women too. But young people who are working are more likely to have a 20% chance of having a heart attack on a Monday morning.
Why is that? Because
they just hate what they do. Like they wake up and it's like, oh shit, gotta go to work.
Yeah.
But how many people wake up and say, okay, here's my mission statement.
Right.
Like, I'm going to post this every time I see it.
Right. Or what's my purpose today? What's my purpose in general? There's, what's the book called? I think it's The One Thing, where they actually talk about doing one thing that will get you closer to your goal. Right. And I can't remember who wrote it. I'll link to the book in the description. Not an affiliate link this time, actually. It's actually a very interesting book, but they talk about what's one thing I can do in the next 5 years to get me to my 10-year goal? What's one thing I can do in the next 6 months to get me to my 5-year goal? What's one thing I can do today to get me closer to my goal in 6 months? Like, what's one thing I can do a day? It doesn't have to be this big elaborate thing, right? It's great if you do. If you have your overall purpose like we have with this, we want to really better everybody's lives and build a community, just kind of show that anybody can do it, that it's not easy, but it's not impossible to do. But it could just be, you know what, today I want to smile at one person to make their day better. That's my purpose for today. Could be as small as that. It could be, I'm going to go save people from a burning building today. I mean, don't set the building on fire if that's your goal. But, you could have a big goal or a small goal, but you need to have a purpose every day.
Absolutely. And I mean, to make that stronger, you always read about if you're doing something in service, then you can't go wrong. Like if it's something that, okay, I want to just better myself. But like this podcast, we said in our first 2 episodes, we don't really know what we're doing.
Not at all.
It all kind of started, and we'll get deeper into this when we talk about accountability partners, because obviously we keep each other accountable. But, sometimes you just got to call people out. Like you were very honest with me. Like I talked about some of those ugly stats of like suicide, depression, overdoses throughout this pandemic. And I was like, I wish there was something I could do. And, you flat out said, like, you could probably do something on YouTube, or you could do, get the word out. I mean, I told you some personal stories of how I've helped others. Yeah. And you're like, why can't you expand that to the internet? Right. And I was like, well, I can't do that because I don't really know how to do it. I hate posting. Oh, I hate posting. Yeah. It's like, I never want to be the guy who posts things.
Guess who's in charge of our social media, though?
Yep. So...
show them some love on there. Let them know you appreciate them.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. You're good. So I guess right after, let's dig right into it then. As far as accountability partners go, I mean, we've kind of learned, okay, what's going to motivate you? I mean, that's something that you're going to have to dig in deep and find yourself. Yeah. Like, okay, what am I doing this because I'm scared? Am I doing this because I want to do better? How can I leverage both of those? And that takes us into accountability partners, where can you think of 3 people who you could tell? 3 people, write it down. If you need to pause this, write down 3 people and, write up a mission statement. Say, hey, this is why I'm getting up every morning. Right. Whether it's I'm going to be the best boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever it is. And I think, there's some siren going. There's probably something going on right now.
Yeah, that's the tornado siren. I'm sorry about that. It's sunny out. I don't think there's a tornado, but
yeah,
I think it's just noon.
It's probably best that we get kicked off this podcast. All right. So as far as the accountability partner goes, you can make it fun. Like it doesn't have to be a hardcore, you're going to call me out every time I do something wrong. Right. I think it's important what you do ask your accountability partner. But I mean, back in college, I used to go on runs. Okay, how do we make this fun? Okay, how about a beer run? Everybody who knows me knows if Trevor's going to drink beer, he'll actually show up. Like, we know that he's actually going to go if he drinks beer.
That's how I get him to show up to this podcast. You think he's drinking coffee. It's all beer.
Yeah. Most of the time, I'm pretty loaded by the time we do this. I'm just kidding. But
just kidding.
So as far as what you ask, I mean, I've looked up a few questions that anybody in general could ask their accountability partner. And I'd say I wrote them out here. So I've got, what are my wins? So you're going to talk to these people like, hey, I lost 5 pounds. From last week, I walked 20 minutes a day and I'm losing weight. Like I'm making progress. Progress is power. Yeah. What are your losses? Okay. I didn't get up this day. I lacked on a workout. I didn't reach out to somebody who I know I should have. Okay. So then what are your fixes? Okay. What are you going to do this week? We all mess up. We're all humans. We get that. What did you realize? Okay. I realized when I drink 12 beers a night, I can't get up at 5 and run. Right. So, okay. What are you going to do about that? So once you realize your fixes, then, it's important to, obviously gratitude is huge no matter what you do. Yes. I think that's a practice everybody should put in their life. So tell them what you're grateful for. Okay. Right. Like, hey, I'm grateful. Although I cut down to 6 beers, but I got up at 5:30. I didn't get up at 5. Right. But I still got 10-minute walking. I'm still making progress. Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing to focus on though too, is be honest about those losses. 100%. Don't hide those losses. When we're doing our waking up at 5 a.m. thing, there's been days that we've messaged each other like, yep, didn't didn't get it today. Be honest about it. But we also don't dwell on it, right? Because if you just focus on your losses the whole time, be honest about your losses. But if you focus on them, you're going to really bring yourself down, right? When athletes look at tape, they don't look at everything they did wrong all the time, because then they get in their head and they focus on those mistakes and they make mistakes more and more and more. But when they focus on, okay, here's what I did wrong, but like you said, your fixes, what can I do to improve that? What could I have done slightly different there? Okay, that's great. Then also pay attention to your wins. Pay attention to your goals or your accomplishments, what you did well. Pay attention to that and think, what did I do to get me to that win? So what did I do wrong? What did I do right? Okay, avoid this. This is more powerful. I still woke up at 5 a.m. What, in the last 2 weeks? 12 of the 14 days? That's great. That's awesome. I could focus on those 2 days of like, I'm a failure. This is horrible. Trevor's going to hate me. All of these things. And then I would never wake up at 5 a.m. again, right?
Yeah.
But focusing on those wins, acknowledging the losses, focusing on the wins, and being grateful for what you have and how you've improved already, that's how you'll be way more successful.
And I mean, you kind of jumped right into it, but where focus goes, energy flows.
Absolutely.
So if you focus on, okay, here's what I did good, you're gonna expand that. I mean, Ed Milet in his book Max Out, he talks about blissful dissatisfaction, where, okay, for an example, he used, I love steak. Like, I'm gonna eat steak. A lot of people are wired to where they won't let themselves be happy until they hit that goal.
Yeah.
Whether they don't see as much progress as they want. But when you take a bite of a good steak, it's not like you're like, oh, I can't enjoy that. It's like, no, I want more.
Right.
So how can you change that mindset to want more steak, basically?
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. I see you got the book there. Show the people what the book looks like.
Ed Milet, guys, he actually gives us a copy out for free. I bought the audiobook because I hate reading, and I'm getting better at it, but I just know I can listen to it and read it. And, if anybody who listens to this knows me, I never really got my AR points back in school. So, but yeah. Very good book. I'd highly recommend it. It's a quick read. I got it done in one night.
Yeah. A great podcast too, by the way. You introduced me to him, and I just started listening to him this week. It's phenomenal podcast. He's a great interviewer, has great guests. I've really enjoyed it. I subscribed now.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. Good. And to kind of reflect on the accountability partner, I mean, we kind of hit it a little bit, but make a schedule for yourself.
Absolutely.
Like, if you don't know what you're going to do every morning, like, you don't have to wake up at 5. Maybe you wake up at 6. Mm-hmm. Then a few weeks later, wake up at, a little bit earlier.
Right.
Or whether it be a half hour, 5:45 or something.
Wake up 15 minutes earlier every week.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
And do that. And it doesn't have to be, I have to make one, kind of like what you said, one change at a time is what you need to do.
Yes. Don't try to make too many changes at once. It's very difficult. I mean, some people are very much, okay, with that example of waking up 15 minutes earlier, that was going to be my goal, because you were already waking up at 5 before I was. And I was like, all right, well, I'm currently waking up at like 7, right? I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to move that to 6:45 for a week, then 6:30 for a week. And I didn't do it at all. Like that 15 minutes, I was like, I'm going to sleep till 7, And then eventually I was like, all right, I'm kind of an all or nothing person. It's either like, we are posting this every week and we're going for it, or like, I'm not doing it, kind of thing. And not to be like, that's not how that conversation happened. Like, you need to post every week. And then, it's just very much like, I'm an excitable person, right? I'm like, I'm eating completely healthy, or I'm not eating healthy at all. Like, I can't, my brain just doesn't work in the middle ground of things, right? Yeah. So then I had to jump to that 5 a.m. Like, all right, waking up at 5, I don't care. Like, it's happening. I don't care how tired I am. It's happening. You got to find that system that works for you and your accountability partner. Small wins, though, there's nothing wrong with that.
And you guys, that's one thing too, is your accountability partner's got to realize who you are.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's one thing is, is this guy going to be more successful if he goes hardcore, wakes up, right. Has nails for breakfast with his, instead of cereal, right. Or, are we going to baby step this? Because there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. In communication with your accountability partner, which I think everybody should have a mentor, and everybody should have an accountability partner, and they can be the same person, but I think those are two things that everybody needs. Two types of people everybody needs in their life. There's other types of people you need in your life, but for the purposes of this discussion, that's important. And I think being open and honest with that, you know, you need to communicate with your accountability partner and you need to know each other's style, right? I am definitely a way more blunt and aggressive and kind of an asshole person than Trevor. Trevor's very supportive. Everybody will say he's the nicest guy you've ever met in your life. He's super nice. You know, I don't know. I'm just trying to think, like, every morning I haven't woken up. I mean, I've never been like mean to you about it when you're like, yeah, I didn't fall asleep till like 3 a.m, so I didn't wake up at 5. I'm like, yeah, man, no worries. Like, you got it tomorrow. But I don't know. Anytime I mess up, you're like, man, that's all right. Like, you got this. Like, there's other ways to do it, man. You got this. You got this. And you're like, you were talking about, you know, that I want to help people out. And I'm like, well, it doesn't sound like you're doing anything. You know, like, there's different styles that work for different people.
And like, let's face it, if we didn't do that with each other, then we probably wouldn't be here doing this.
Absolutely.
And, you know, to kind of bounce off that is, one, JJ is probably the biggest suck ass in the world, which is why he says I'm nice. But also, it's accountability doesn't necessarily have to be all of that either. I know, kind of to go back to the gym story, I used to go, I was like, oh, dude, I'm going to get a 6-pack. I'm going to be jacked. Like, dude, these chicks are going to be all over me. And there was this girl that wanted to talk to me. And I was like, okay, if you want to talk to me, like, I was like hardcore, like, you know, like, this chick's going to think I'm tough.
Right.
I show up at the gym at 4:30 in the morning. Like, I'll meet you there. We'll work out, you know, goals. And sure enough, she never showed up. We quit talking. But after that, like, I went for like a month at 4:30.
Yeah.
And I have a good friend of mine where we have like the Fitbits or we had the Fitbits or whatever. And when we didn't get enough steps, we'd give each other so much shit. Like, you know, and I ended up being in a Fitbit group with our family. Like, it was weird. And they're like, okay, why is Trevor here? But okay, whatever. Wow, the guy can walk. Like, you know, at least he can do something right.
Oh my gosh. No, and I think that's a great point too, of going back to finding what works for both of you. Some people, maybe you're not at the point that you can handle that ribbing on each other, right? And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as you and your accountability partner understand that. Maybe you are both like, you know what? I'm not there yet. I don't want that. And then maybe okay, so you and I don't give each other as much shit as what you and that other friend did, right? And that's fine. I mean, it's not that we choose like not to give each other shit. It's just that that's not what we really do. I mean, we pick on each other, but you know, when like we haven't given each other crap for not waking up at 5 on these couple of days. You and your other friend, it sounds like you guys would have crapped all over each other for that. And that's fine. You know, I mean, what works for you, figure that out. That's yes. And be honest with them. If let's say you were ribbing on me about something, right? And I'm like, man, you know what? That kind of made me feel like shit. You know?
Like when I make fun of how he's probably got more hair products than my cousin does, the one that he's dating, because his hair's always so nice. And I'm pretty sure those sunglasses are glued to his head.
Yeah. They are. The sunglasses have become a thing. It's, you know, actually, funny story. This is completely unrelated. I might leave it in here anyways, just because it's funny.
Yeah.
So I've been taping my mouth shut every night, you know, to breathe through my nose, because otherwise when I sleep, I'm a mouth breather. And I read James Nestor's book, Breath, and now
repeat that. You tape your mouth shut?
I tape my mouth shut.
Oh, this will be interesting.
It's just like a little inch of tape. You just put it, you know, over your mouth, and it keeps your mouth shut at night, so you have to breathe through your nose, right? And there's a lot of benefits to nose breathing. Well, as you can see, I shaved since the last time we recorded, and it turns out the tape doesn't stick to my face as well as sticks to my mustache and my beard.
Ooh.
So I woke up with the tape off of my mouth. I looked all over the bed. I couldn't find it. And when I went to the bathroom to go brush my teeth, I saw that it was actually stuck in my hair up here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I had to like pull that out gently. That's how it feels to pull these sunglasses out now. They're kind of stuck in there, and gotta...
Yeah, I didn't even know those came out.
I know. This is the first time anybody's ever seen me with that. Wow. Even on my other podcast, all of my pictures, I have it in there.
Well, and that's another benefit of the tape on the mouth is I didn't realize we were giving out relationship advice in this podcast, but they get along so well when he doesn't talk.
That's true. Yeah. Usually when I'm tired and I'm not thinking as straight of like, should I say this or should I not say this? I'm not as smart at night. So
genius. I bet if I duct tape my mouth, more girls would probably talk to me as well.
Probably. You should probably do that.
So we got a little off topic there. We're just, life's too short not to have fun, right?
Yes.
So next, I'd say, obviously celebrate the little wins. We already talked about that.
Yes.
Tell the world. Like, this is another thing that
Yes.
I am going to dread. I never wanted to be the guy to post. And, of course, that's why I got the task of the social media stuff. But tell the world. Like, it's, hey, I'm going to get up, little win. I'm going to get up and I'm going to go for a half-hour walk. I'm going to get 10,000 steps in a day, 5,000 steps in a day. And then next week, I'm going to go a little bit higher.
Yes.
Tell the world. That's, if I post something right now saying I'm going to do this podcast, and then a few weeks from now, nothing happens, they're going to be, there goes your integrity. Like, you throw your integrity out on the line.
Yes. And I think that's absolutely. Social media is a great tool. We all got social media. Almost everybody's got social media. If you don't, send a text to somebody. Tell people that you're doing it. And you don't have to do it in a bragging way. Don't worry about that. Just be like, hey, I'm letting all of you know that this is my goal, so I have to do it. So it keeps me stuck to it. I can't escape it, right? Do it like that. And you're right. It does affect your integrity. Robert Cialdini actually has this book called Influence, which is an incredible book. I recommend people read it. It's meant more for like marketing and everything, but either way, there's a lot of really great ways to trick yourself to being committed to something. And one of those was actually writing it down. Having people write something down or sign a piece of paper, sign their name onto something, increases their compliance and how much you influence them and how much you can influence yourself. A lot. He says that, and I'm going to read this here, quote, humans have a nearly obsessive desire to be and to appear consistent with what we have already done. So if you say you will do something and you tell people publicly, you are much more likely to stick to it because now your reputation and how people perceive you is on the line. And he goes into a really interesting piece where he talks about in the Korean War, American POWs, right?
Yeah.
In Chinese camps, they got them to, it was essentially like brainwashing them, right? And they didn't do it through torture. They didn't do it through all these crazy things. What they did is they had them sit down and they'd say, America's a bad place, right? And they'd be like, no, I wouldn't say that. And they're like, okay, well, the country's not perfect, right? And they're like, that's a reasonable thing to say, right? Be like, yeah, of course. And like, it's not perfect. We got our problems.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So I'd be like, well, what are some of those problems? And then people would list them off and they'd write them down. Like, can you sign this here? And then people would sign it. And then they would post that publicly. So now you can't go back on your word, right? Your name's signed there. They can show the rest of the POWs. They can show everybody else. Like, yeah, you said like these are the problems with America. You're not going to go back on that, right? So then slowly what that would do is then they would start to doubt America, right? And then you would eventually like, hey, write an essay on why America's good. Write an essay on why America is great. What's one problem that you'd fix with America, right? And slowly over time, they really more or less brainwashed these POWs to not believing in America.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's a really extreme example, right? And it took time. It doesn't happen overnight that happens. But again, you sign your name on something, you put it out there. That's just showing you how far people will go to remain consistent. And if that's how far people can get other people to turn on an entire country, right? You can wake up at 5 a.m. You can go to the gym. You can eat a healthier breakfast. You can eat a healthier dinner. You can go for a walk every day. Like if that biggest stuff can happen, our small problems that we have, our small tasks that we're trying to do can definitely happen.
And I completely agree with you, especially with, like, if you can turn that around where we talked about focusing on the positives instead of the negatives, like, okay, this is why America's so bad. Okay, this is why this is so good. Like, okay.
Absolutely.
I'm going to eat this because I'm not going to feel like, I'm not going to feel like ass in the morning. Because if you look at it, I guess I still do, where when you go to Chinese restaurants, like a China buffet somewhere, and you're going to feel like crap. You talk to your friends like, oh, man, as soon as I'm done with this, I'm going to go take a nap, take a dump, whatever. But that's going to happen. So if you can link, like, okay, if I take this salad over this, or it doesn't even have to be salad, but something a little bit better that's easier on the gut.
Yeah.
What's the difference going to be? And, what's the rest of my day going to look like? What's my energy levels going to be? Because you go into it, you're focused on, hey, look, I'm going to feel like ass. I know it. But I'm going to do it anyways.
Right. that I do that with myself all the time because, there's nights that, so we were both talking before this that we're working right now like 15-hour days total, right? So there's a lot of nights that I just skip. Like last night, I just skipped dinner. I just finally ate some like frozen yogurt and berries, or frozen berries and yogurt, Greek yogurt last night for dinner at like 11:30 midnight, right? So, but there's other nights that I'm like, I really need to eat dinner right now. So I think, okay, well, there's a frozen pizza in the freezer. I could just throw that in, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I also have like pre-made frozen stir fry that I can just, throw in a skillet, and it takes the same amount of time, but again, it's that motivation of the pizza sounds great, but I know I'm not going to feel great after having that. They both take the same amount of time. All right, I'm going to make the stir fry. It'll take maybe an extra minute on my part, right? But I'm going to feel better. What is that? Is that intrinsic or extrinsic motivation? Or is that both?
That'd be intrinsic. Well, you want to know what? It'd be both. Because good job. You see?
Pain and pleasure. Look at that.
Yeah, you see that this is all off script. You just realized something about himself today, that he can actually leverage both.
Yep.
And you're still wowed, aren't you?
I'm honestly pretty impressed right
talking
now.
about wowed. I know anybody who's on YouTube, as far as extrinsic goes, my mom is going crazy over me not having a girlfriend right now. So she's like, okay, fine, Trevor. If you're not going to get a girlfriend to decorate this place, I'm going to decorate it. So here's I don't know if they can see this. Yeah. Wake up and wow the world. As soon as my friends came and checked this out, they're like, oh yeah, either that was your mom, wasn't it? I was like, yeah, that was her. She made it. So exactly. Like eventually I'm going to get a girlfriend because I can't deal with all these signs here.
Right.
I got what's that other one? Kindness is always in style.
Oh, hang on. Yeah, I can grab that 1 second.
Which it's true. And definitely a lot of people don't have enough style these days.
Right,
but
right. Kindness is always in style. That is the right one, right? Yes, it is. I was going to say, I hope I don't hold one up that says, like, be happy.
Live, love, laugh.
JJ can't read.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we talked about accountability partners. But what are some other tips that we can use every day? Well, we talked about accountability partners and about sharing it publicly, but there's other ways that we can hold ourselves accountable, right? Or at least commit to something a little bit more, right? So we talked about publicly, we talked about accountability partners, talked about writing it down, but I think there's another one, and that is committing to one small thing every day. And we did, I guess, talk about that way earlier on about doing one small thing.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to remember what it was, but it was years ago. I think it was like 2014. I heard this in an article on the Spartan Up podcast, right? It's a great podcast. I think it's still on, where the founder of the Spartan races and everything, that team, they have a podcast, and it's like a half hour once a week or every couple days or something, where they just interview high performers, right? Or talk about a specific topic, kind of like what we're doing here. But one of the things, they interviewed a former person from Twitter. I don't remember if they were the former CEO. It wasn't Jack Dorsey. It was somebody else, right? And he talked about every day he commits to one tiny thing. And he's saying that some days he wakes up and he's just tired, doesn't feel great, doesn't want to go to work, right? And he's like, okay, well, I'm going to get ready, and then I'm going to see how I feel. And he's like, and then, I get ready and I'm fine. He's like, but let's say I don't feel fine, right? And I'm just kind of like, eh. He's like, okay, well, I'm going to drive to work and we'll see how I feel. And I get to work and I feel fine. He's like, and I'm like, okay, well, now I'm going to commit to lunch. I'm going to see how I feel. And then I feel fine by lunch. And I'm going to be like, okay, well, I'm going to make it to the end of the day, then see how I feel. And then he makes it, and he's like, and I go through the whole day and I feel fine. He's like, it was just all in my head. And just kind of, so commit to one small thing. Al Cavadlo, great calisthenics coach, great writer. He's written tons of articles and everything. He also talks about that too, of winning just that one day, right? He says, some days it's not fun to work out. So just tell yourself, okay, well, if I work out today, I can skip my workout tomorrow, or I can have that donut tomorrow if I don't eat this healthy food today, right? So he talks about doing that every day. And he's like, because then when you get to the next day, win that day. Be like, okay, well, yesterday I could skip working out for today, so I don't, or work out yesterday so I don't have to work out today. But if I work out today, then I don't have to work out tomorrow. And he's like, if you just commit to that one day, it's a lot less daunting of a task, and it's way easier to do. That's a great strategy that I use. I use both of those all the time.
So why does accountability matter, though? I mean, I know we've got a little bit off topic throughout all this.
Yeah.
But really, between the stats of how unhappy people are,
Yeah.
And how they don't know that they have the tools of other people, which, you can, what's the old saying? Like, if you want to be the biggest, baddest in town, you can either build your tower up higher or you can knock others down.
Yeah.
And I mean, why not build everybody's up? Like, if we can make that
Absolutely.
mindset as far as, I'm telling you, hey, you read all these high performers, they raise their standards.
Yes.
How can we raise one standard one day, keep it accountable? How can you put purpose in your life?
Yeah. Man, I think putting purpose in your life is really figuring out what your purpose is first, right? And that's that mission statement, right? And maybe you know it already, or maybe you're like, I've thought a lot about this, and you're excited to write it down, and maybe not. Maybe take a day, think about it. Actively think about it. Figure out what do you love to do. When do you feel your best? Is it when you're volunteering? Maybe that's your purpose. Maybe it's volunteering at your church or at your local food bank, right? Whatever it may be. Maybe it's just like, I want to make one person smile a day. Maybe it's, whenever I see that car on the side of the road, somebody changing the tire, I'm going to help them out. Whatever that purpose may be. That's how you can incorporate that into your life. But you got to actively do these things, right? If you want to actively help people, then be like, okay, every day, my goal is to help one person.
And with the mission statement, this is something that, it doesn't have to be once you write it down, it's for the rest of your life. Like, mission statements change.
Absolutely.
I've heard from a lot of people that, when you don't know what to do what you can to serve.
Yeah.
Because as long as you're doing something for the good of others, then you're going to find your purpose. I believe that, obviously life happens for you, not to you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can live your life as a servant, then you're gonna be right where you need to be.
Yeah, and if you think about like all of the greatest leaders and most influential people of all time, not all of them, but most of them had that idea of servant leadership. Those are the people who went down in history. Another reason accountability matters is that other people depend on you. Whether or not you know that, whether or not they explicitly tell you that, other people do depend on you. Your wife, your husband, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your partner, whatever, your kids, your coworkers, your friends, your family, your local community. We all play a part into this, right? We all have our part to play. And you have to play your part. You can change your part over time by building up, but you have a part to play. I think it was Marcus Aurelius talked about that his job, that in Meditations, also a great book, right? I read that one all the time, almost every day. But he talks about his job that day, his job every day is to wake up and be human, to do the work of a human, to give back to his community, to build up that empire, that Roman Empire that I think it was a Roman Empire. I don't remember what empire he ran, but he had to build that up. And he saw himself just as a human being, not as this emperor, not as this king, not as anything, but as a human with his part to play every single day. Be accountable, because that's going to make you play that part better. That's going to build up the world. That's going to build up other people. I know it sounds cheesy, but it's true. The better you do on your part, the higher up you lift your part, the more you do, again, your part will change over time. It's not a constant. It's not, I'm a podcast host and that's it. Like, for the rest of my life, that's it. That might change in 2 years. That might change in 5 years. That might change in 3 weeks. But you got to do that part well, because that's the part that you're meant to play right now.
Yeah, I like that. And honestly, that kind of takes me back to the Max Out Your Life by Ed Milet. Probably should have mentioned this before, but you are the 5 people you hang out with, or the 5 people that you keep accountable with. You can't necessarily see everybody if say you got a specific niche or something like that, where you don't have any of that around you. But he mentions in the book about your thermostat. So say I'm set at 80 and JJ, you're set at 90, and I hang out with you, and for an example, you heat me up. Okay, that sounds really creepy and weird, and that's kind of how I roll. But I'm going to go up to that 90, or somewhere in between that 80 and 90.
Right.
But eventually I'm going to leave, and my identity is going to go back. It's like the thermostat. Like if you open a window and life cools down, like something bad happens,
Right.
you're going to make your way back up. It goes both ways. So again, if you can leverage that, if you can put these people in your life that care, because I mean, there's people that I know I probably wouldn't reach out to because they don't look at this the same way I do.
Yeah.
But the big thing is finding that. And I think with this community that we're building up, even if somebody were to leave a comment below,
Right.
you can start building that up. They don't have to be your next door neighbor.
No. And that's it. I mean, community now. I mean, community used to be that small village that you lived in, right, forever. And then it kind of became a city, right? Well, then maybe it became the state because you had, transit that could take you around places a little bit faster. So you could be farther away and you could still have your friends and family everywhere. And now with the internet, you could be across the ocean. You could be Antarctica. You could be on whatever 7 continents that there are, right? Your community is what you make it. Those 5 people can be anywhere. You just have to engage with them. All right, well, I think that's where I'm going to stop talking now because I think I ended on a high point and I don't want to ruin that. So thank you, everybody, for watching. Or listening. Implement Impact. You can find us on social media. Be sure to follow us. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok is going to be one. Did I say Facebook yet? I don't remember.
No, you didn't. You didn't say Facebook.
Okay. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok. You can find us there. If you're listening to this, check us out on YouTube. If you're watching this, you can also find us on all of the big, what are they called? Podcast platforms.
Yeah. And honestly, leave a comment below. I mean, I want to really interact with everybody who wants to do. I mean, you don't have to buy a $10,000 program to better your life. This is something that we could all start. This is a movement.
Yes.
So leave a comment, follow us, and share this. Share this with somebody.
Yeah.
If you think one person can benefit from this, then why not make this infect the world?
Absolutely.
Maybe that's a bad.
This
way
is
to
our
say
plan for world domination right here.
Yeah.
Improve the world.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody who knows me is going to say, oh, yeah, I'm sure Trevor's competent enough to take over the world. But, all right, guys, live your best life.
Absolutely.
This is kind of the groundwork of what's going to be coming up. Take faith through fear and live your life.
Absolutely. See you next time.